The smell of grease and burnt coffee still clung to Maya's uniform as she walked through Riverside Park. Her feet ached from the double shift at the diner, and all she wanted was to get home, check on her grandmother, and maybe catch a few hours of sleep before her morning shift at the grocery store started. It was almost 10 at night and the park was mostly empty. Streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the cracked walking path. Maya knew she probably shouldn't be cutting through the park this late, but it saved her 15 minutes of walking, and those 15 minutes mattered when you only got 5 hours of sleep on a good night. She was thinking about the bills piled up on the kitchen counter when she heard it. A sound so faint she almost missed it. Maya stopped walking and listened. There it was again, a cry. Not a cat or a bird. A baby. Her heart started racing. She looked around the empty park, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. The crying got a little louder, and Maya followed it toward the public restrooms near the old playground. The building was dark, and most people avoided it after sunset because the lights had been broken for months. Maya's hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The crying was definitely coming from behind the restroom building. She walked slowly, her pulse pounding in her ears. Part of her wanted to run away, to pretend she hadn't heard anything. But she couldn't. That was a baby crying, and babies didn't belong in dark parks at night. Behind the building, near a broken fence, she found a cardboard box. The kind that copy paper comes in. And inside that box, wrapped in a thin blanket that looked homemade, was a baby. Maya dropped to her knees, her phone clattering to the ground. The baby couldn't have been more than 6 months old. Her tiny face was red from crying, and when the flashlight hit her eyes, she squinted and cried harder. Without thinking, Maya reached into the box and picked her up, blanket and all. "Oh my God," Maya whispered. "Oh my God, who would do this?" The baby was warm, which meant she hadn't been there long. Maya held her close, trying to remember everything she'd learned from babysitting the neighbor's kids years ago. She checked the blanket, looking for a note or something that might explain why this baby was here. There was nothing. Just the baby, the blanket, and the cardboard box. Maya's first instinct was to take the baby home, but she knew that wasn't right. She grabbed her phone with one hand while keeping the baby secure in her other arm. Her fingers fumbled as she dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "I found a baby," Maya said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "In Riverside Park. Someone left a baby here." The operator asked her a series of questions. Was the baby breathing? Yes. Was she injured? Maya didn't think so. Where exactly was she? Behind the restrooms near the old playground. Could she stay there? Yes, she'd stay. The baby had stopped crying and was now making small whimpering sounds. Maya started rocking back and forth, the way she'd seen mothers do. She found herself humming softly, some song she didn't even remember learning. The baby's dark eyes looked up at her and Maya felt something twist in her chest. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're going to be okay. I've got you." The paramedics arrived first, their ambulance lights painting the park in red and blue. Then came the police. Maya answered their questions while a paramedic checked the baby. Officer Chen was kind but thorough. How did Maya find her? What time was it? Did she see anyone leaving the area? Had she touched anything besides the baby? Maya explained everything, still holding the baby because every time the paramedic tried to take her, she started crying again. It was like the baby knew Maya had found her, had saved her, and didn't want to let go. "You did the right thing," Officer Chen said. "A lot of people would have just kept walking." Maya didn't know what to say to that. How could anyone keep walking after hearing a baby cry? Detective Morrison showed up about 20 minutes later. He was older, with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked at the cardboard box, took photos of the blanket, and asked Maya even more questions. By the time they were done, it was past midnight. "We're going to need you to come to the station tomorrow to give an official statement," Detective Morrison said. "But for now, you should go home and get some rest. You've had quite a night." The paramedic finally convinced Maya to hand over the baby. It was harder than she expected. As they carried her toward the ambulance, the baby started crying again, reaching her tiny hands back toward Maya. The sound followed Maya all the way home. Her grandmother, Rosa, was still awake when Maya got back to their small apartment. Rosa had good days and bad days, and tonight seemed to be somewhere in between. She was sitting in her chair, watching a telenovela with the volume too loud. "Where have you been?" Rosa asked in Spanish. "I was worried." Maya collapsed on the couch and told her everything. Rosa's face went pale as she listened. When Maya finished, her grandmother stood up and went to the kitchen. She came back with a cup of hot chocolate, the kind she used to make when Maya was little and couldn't sleep. "You have a good heart, mija," Rosa said quietly. "But this world is not always kind to people with good hearts. Be careful." Maya didn't understand what her grandmother meant by that. She drank her hot chocolate and tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw that baby's face looking up at her. The next morning, the story was on the news. "Local teen rescues abandoned infant," the headline read. Maya's face was blurred in the footage from the park, but people in the neighborhood recognized her uniform. By the time she got to work at the grocery store, her manager had already heard about it. "You're a hero," Mrs. Patterson said, squeezing Maya's shoulder. But Maya didn't feel like a hero. She felt confused and sad. Who was that baby's mother? Why had she left her there? Was she scared? Was she in trouble? Maya couldn't stop thinking about it. A reporter from the local paper called that afternoon wanting to do an interview. Maya agreed, even though she hated being the center of attention. She sat on a bench outside her apartment building and answered questions about finding the baby. The reporter asked if she had any message for the mother who left her. Maya thought about it for a long moment. "I hope you're okay," she finally said. "I hope you had a good reason, and I hope you know that she's safe now. That's what matters." The article ran 2 days later with a photo of Maya looking uncomfortable and tired. The baby, who social services had temporarily named Lucia until they could find her family, was in foster care. The police were investigating, trying to find whoever left her in that park. Maya went back to her regular life. 2 jobs, taking care of her grandmother, trying to save money for community college. But she thought about baby Lucia every single day. She wondered if she was okay, if her foster family was kind, if anyone would ever claim her. She had no idea that in 3 weeks, someone would knock on her door with news that would change everything. Someone who would tell her that finding that baby wasn't random at all, that the past Maya never knew she had was about to catch up with her in ways she couldn't imagine. For now, though, she just went to work, came home, and tried to forget the weight of that baby in her arms and the sound of her crying in the dark. 3 weeks had passed since that night in the park, and Maya had almost convinced herself that life was back to normal. Almost. She still thought about baby Lucia every day, wondered if she was okay, if someone had claimed her yet. But the news had moved on to other stories, and people stopped asking Maya about that night. She was folding laundry in the living room when someone knocked on the door. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and Maya wasn't expecting anyone. Rosa was napping in her bedroom, and Maya hoped the knocking wouldn't wake her up. Her grandmother needed all the rest she could get these days. The woman at the door looked professional. She wore a gray pantsuit and carried a leather bag over her shoulder. Her smile was warm but serious. "Maya Rodriguez?" the woman asked. "Yes?" Maya's stomach tightened. "Nothing good ever came from strangers in suits showing up at your door. I'm Patricia Chen. I'm a social worker with Child Protective Services. May I come in? I need to talk to you about the baby you found." Maya let her in, her mind racing. Was she in trouble? Had she done something wrong that night? Patricia sat on the old couch and pulled out a folder from her bag. Maya sat across from her, hands folded in her lap. "First, I want you to know you're not in any trouble," Patricia said, as if reading Maya's mind. "You did everything right. Baby Lucia is doing well in foster care, but something has come up and I need to talk to you about it." "Did you find her mother?" Maya asked. "No, we haven't, and that's actually part of why I'm here." Patricia opened her folder and pulled out some papers. "As part of the investigation, we've been doing routine background checks on everyone involved in the case, including you." Maya frowned. "Why would you need to check my background?" "Standard procedure," Patricia assured her. "But while reviewing your file, I discovered something. Maya, what do you know about how you came to live with your grandmother?" The question caught Maya off guard. "My grandmother adopted me when I was a baby. My mother couldn't take care of me, so she left me at the hospital. Abuela Rosa was a volunteer there, and she fostered me first, then adopted me when I was 2. Patricia's expression was gentle but serious. "Maya, that's not exactly what happened." The room suddenly felt too small. Maya's heart was pounding. "What do you mean?" "You weren't left at a hospital," Patricia said slowly. "According to the records I found, you were abandoned in Riverside Park 17 years ago, near the public restrooms by the old playground. Maya stopped breathing. The world tilted sideways. What? The exact same spot where you found Lucia, Patricia continued. Your grandmother was the one who found you. She called the police just like you did, and she fostered you through the system before adopting you. No, Maya shook her head. No, that's not right. Abuela always said it was a hospital. She told me that story my whole life. I know. I actually spoke with some of the old caseworkers from your file. They said Rosa was adamant about changing the story for your sake. She didn't want you to know you'd been abandoned in a park. She thought it would hurt you less if you believed it was a hospital, somewhere safe and clean. Maya felt like she might throw up. All these years she'd pictured her unknown mother leaving her with nurses and doctors, making sure she'd be taken care of. But the reality was different. The reality was a cardboard box in a dark park, just like Lucia. There's more, Patricia said quietly. The blanket you were wrapped in 17 years ago. We still have it in evidence storage. It matches the blanket we found with Lucia. Same pattern, same homemade stitching. They're not identical, but they're clearly from the same source. Maya couldn't speak. She just stared at Patricia, trying to process what she was hearing. We think there might be a connection between your case and Lucia's, Patricia explained. It's too much of a coincidence. Same location, similar blankets, similar circumstances. We need to investigate further, but I wanted to tell you first, before you heard it anywhere else. The sound of a door opening made them both turn. Rosa shuffled out of her bedroom, her hair messy from sleep. She looked at Patricia, then at Maya, and her face went pale. No, Rosa whispered. No. Abuela? Maya stood up, alarmed by her grandmother's reaction. Rosa's hands were shaking. She pointed at Patricia with a trembling finger. You leave her alone. You leave my granddaughter alone. She doesn't need to know. I protected her. I kept her safe. Mrs. Rodriguez, Patricia stood up slowly, her voice calm. I understand you wanted to protect Maya, but she deserves to know the truth. The truth? Rosa laughed, but it sounded wrong, almost hysterical. The truth hurts. The truth breaks you. I saved her from that. Maya had never seen her grandmother like this. Rosa's dementia usually made her confused or forgetful, but this was different. This was fear and panic. Maya went to her, took her hands. Abuela, it's okay. I'm okay. I just need you to tell me what really happened. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Maya like she was seeing her for the first time. I found you, she whispered. In the park. You were so small, so cold. I picked you up and I knew I couldn't let them take you away. I knew I had to keep you. Why didn't you tell me? Maya asked, her own tears starting to fall. Because I didn't want you to feel unwanted. I didn't want you to think your mother threw you away like trash. Rosa touched Maya's face with her wrinkled hand. You were wanted, Mija, by me. Always by me. Patricia gave them a moment, then spoke softly. Mrs. Rodriguez, I need to ask you about something. The records from 17 years ago mention that you seemed to recognize the location where Maya was found. Like you'd expected to find a baby there. Do you remember anything about that? Rosa's face changed. She pulled away from Maya and sat down heavily in her chair. For a long moment she just stared at the floor. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, clearer. Like the fog in her mind had temporarily lifted. There was a girl, Rosa said, at the women's shelter where I volunteered. She was young, maybe 19 or 20, pregnant and scared. She never told us her name. She only stayed a few days. Maya and Patricia exchanged glances. Neither of them interrupted. One day, I found her crying in the common room, Rosa continued. She was holding this blanket she'd made in our craft program. She said she couldn't keep her baby. She said someone was looking for her. Someone dangerous, and her baby would never be safe with her. I tried to help her. I gave her information about adoption agencies, about safe haven laws. But she disappeared the next day. Rosa looked up at Maya with haunted eyes. 2 days later, I had this feeling. I can't explain it. I went to the park on my way home from the shelter and I found you. I knew it was her baby. I knew she'd left you there, hoping someone would find you. Someone who would care. The room was silent except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Maya felt like she was in a dream, like none of this could be real. The blanket, Patricia said. Do you remember what it looked like? Cream-colored, Rosa said immediately, with blue and yellow flowers embroidered in the corners. She made it herself in our textile program. Patricia opened her folder again and pulled out a photo. She handed it to Rosa. Is this it? Rosa looked at the photo and started crying. Yes, that's the blanket. Patricia turned to Maya. This is the blanket Lucia was found in. We think your mother and Lucia's mother might be related. Possibly sisters. We're running DNA tests now, but based on the evidence, it seems likely. Maya couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. She had a family out there, a biological family, and they were still in trouble, still running from something or someone so dangerous that they'd rather leave their babies in a park than keep them. I need to find her, Maya said suddenly. Lucia's mother. I need to find her. Maya, that's not your responsibility, Patricia said. The police are investigating. I don't care. Maya's voice was stronger now. Someone left me in that park 17 years ago because they were scared. And now someone's done it again. That's my family out there. That might be my aunt. That baby might be my cousin. I need to help them. Patricia studied Maya for a long moment. If you want to be involved, I can't stop you. But you need to understand this might lead to difficult places. Painful truths, I don't care, Maya repeated. I spent my whole life not knowing where I came from. Now I have a chance to find out and maybe help someone at the same time. I have to try. Rosa reached for Maya's hand. Be careful, Mija. Some stones are better left unturned. But Maya had already made up her mind. She'd spent 17 years with questions and no answers. She'd made peace with never knowing who her mother was or why she'd been left behind. But now everything had changed. Now there was a baby who needed help, a woman who might be her aunt, and a mystery that connected them all. Patricia gave Maya her card and promised to keep her updated. After she left, Maya sat with her grandmother in silence. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, casting long shadows across the worn carpet. Tell me everything you remember about her, Maya finally said. About my mother. And Rosa did. She talked about the scared young woman who'd shown up at the shelter, who barely spoke but was always polite, who made that blanket with such care, stitching each flower like a prayer, who cried at night when she thought no one could hear. Maya listened to every word, building a picture in her mind of the mother she'd never known. And somewhere in the city, she knew, there was another scared woman making the same impossible choice. The difference was this time Maya had a chance to change the ending. Maya couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the blankets, about her mother, about Lucia. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that scared young woman her grandmother had described. Making a blanket with such care for a baby she knew she couldn't keep. The next morning, Maya called Patricia before her shift at the diner. I want to see the blanket, she said. The one I was found in. Can I see it? There was a pause on the other end. I can arrange that. When are you free? I can come by during my lunch break. 12:30? Patricia agreed, and Maya spent the morning in a fog, barely registering customers' orders or the usual chaos of the breakfast rush. Her manager, Tony, noticed but didn't say anything. Everyone at the diner knew about Maya finding the baby. They probably figured she was still processing it. The evidence room at the police station was in the basement. Patricia met Maya at the entrance along with Detective Morrison, the older officer who'd been at the park that night. Maya hadn't known he'd worked on her case too 17 years ago. I was fresh out of the academy, he explained as they walked down the fluorescent-lit hallway. Your case was one of the first I worked on. I never forgot it. Never forgot your grandmother's face when she held you, refusing to let go. They entered a small room with metal shelves lined with boxes and bags. Patricia pulled out 2 evidence bags and laid them on the table. Both contained blankets. One was worn and faded, the cream color now more yellow with age. The other was newer but clearly made with the same technique. Maya reached out, then hesitated. Can I touch them? Go ahead, Detective Morrison said. We've already processed everything for DNA and fiber evidence. Maya picked up the older blanket first. Her blanket, the one her mother had wrapped her in 17 years ago. The embroidered flowers were still visible, blue and yellow, though the threads had loosened in places. She brought it to her face and breathed in, but it just smelled like plastic and dust. The stitching pattern is distinctive, Patricia said, pointing to the flowers. It's not a common design. The shelter your grandmother mentioned had a textile program that ran for about 8 years before it closed down. They taught basic sewing and embroidery to help women develop skills. Maya set down her blanket and picked up Lucia's. It was so similar it made her chest ache. Same cream fabric, same type of embroidery, but with pink and purple flowers instead of blue and yellow. Someone had made this with the same care, the same love, knowing they'd have to say goodbye. I tracked down the woman who ran the textile program. Detective Morrison said, "Her name is Helen Briggs. She's retired now, living about 40 minutes from here. She agreed to meet with you if you want." "When?" Maya asked immediately. "This afternoon, if you're free." Maya called Tony and told him she needed the rest of the day off. For once, she didn't care about the lost wages. This was more important. Helen Briggs lived in a small house with a garden full of flowers. She was in her 70s, with white hair pulled back in a bun and paint stains on her hands. She invited them into a living room that smelled like lavender and old books. "I've been thinking about this ever since Detective Morrison called," Helen said, pouring tea into mismatched cups. "The blankets. I remember teaching that pattern." She disappeared into another room and came back with a photo album. Inside were pictures of women in a common room, working on various projects. Quilts, sweaters, baby blankets. The shelter served women escaping difficult situations, Helen explained. Abuse, addiction, homelessness. We didn't ask many questions. We just provided a safe place and tried to teach skills that might help them build a new life. She flipped through pages until she found what she was looking for. A photo of a young woman bent over an embroidery hoop, dark hair falling across her face. You couldn't see her features clearly, but she was working on a cream-colored blanket. "That's from about 17 years ago," Helen said. "I don't remember her name." She never talked much, kept to herself. But she worked on that blanket for days like it was the most important thing in the world. Maya stared at the photo. That could be her mother. That could be the woman who gave birth to her and then left her in a park, wrapped in that carefully made blanket. "Did she ever mention family?" Patricia asked. "A sister, maybe." Helen frowned, thinking. "Actually, yes. I remember now. She had a younger sister. The sister came to visit once, maybe twice. Teenager, I think. Very quiet, very scared. They looked alike." "Do you have any records?" Detective Morrison asked. "Names, intake forms?" "The shelter closed 15 years ago," Helen said sadly. "Most of the records were lost. The building was sold, and the new owners threw out boxes of files before anyone realized what they were. I saved what I could, but it's not much." She brought out a cardboard box filled with papers, intake forms, program schedules, a few sign-in sheets. They spent an hour going through it all. Most of the names were first names only or obvious fake names. But then Maya found something. It was a sign-up sheet for the textile program. Near the bottom of the page, in neat handwriting, were two names signed up for the same date: Caroline M. and Diane M. The date was about 9 months before Maya was found in the park. "Caroline and Diane," Maya whispered. "Could that be them?" Helen looked at the sheet and nodded slowly. "Caroline, yes, I think that might have been her name. And her sister was younger now that I think about it. If Caroline was 19 or 20, her sister might have been 15 or 16. Patricia took a photo of the sign-up sheet. "This is good. This is something we can work with." On the drive back, Maya's mind was racing. Caroline. Her mother's name might have been Caroline, and Diane might be her aunt, Lucia's mother. They were sisters who'd both ended up in such desperate situations that they'd made the same heartbreaking choice. What could make someone do that? Maya asked quietly. Not once but twice in the same family. Detective Morrison glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Usually it's about safety. If you believe your child is in danger, that leaving them is the only way to protect them, people will do things that seem unthinkable. So someone was after them, Maya said. Someone dangerous? That's what I think, he agreed. And whoever it is might still be out there. Back at the police station, Detective Morrison started running searches for Caroline M. and Diane M. in the system. Patricia pulled up records from the old shelter, trying to cross-reference dates and programs. Maya sat in a conference room, staring at the photo of her blanket on her phone. "Maya," Detective Morrison called from his desk. "Come look at this. He'd found something." A police report from 18 years ago about a domestic disturbance at an address in the south part of the city. Officers had responded to a call about a man threatening his girlfriend and her daughters. The girlfriend's name was redacted, but her daughters were listed as Caroline and Diane. The boyfriend's name was Victor Reyes, Detective Morrison read. He was arrested that night, but the girlfriend refused to press charges. Officers noted that the older daughter, Caroline, appeared to be pregnant. Maya felt cold. "Where is he now?" Detective Morrison typed rapidly. His face darkened. He was arrested for assault 5 years later. Served 12 years. He was released from prison 6 months ago. 6 months ago, right around the time Lucia was born. It fits, Patricia said, looking over his shoulder. If Diane is Lucia's mother, and Victor was looking for her after his release, leaving the baby might have been her way of keeping her safe. We need to find Diane, Maya said urgently. If he's after her, she's in danger. We've been trying, Detective Morrison said. But without a full name or recent address, it's like looking for a ghost. Maya thought hard. The shelter closed 15 years ago. Caroline left me 17 years ago, so Diane would have been a teenager then. If she's in her early 30s now, she might have been in the foster system after the shelter closed. Do we have access to those records? Patricia's eyes widened. That's smart thinking. If their mother couldn't care for them after the incident with Victor, they might have been placed in care. She pulled out her phone. I have a friend who works in family services. Let me make some calls. It took the rest of the afternoon, but Patricia's contacts came through. They found a Diane Martinez who'd been in foster care from age 16 to 18. The timeline matched. The last known address was from 4 years ago, an apartment in a rough neighborhood across town. It's a long shot, Detective Morrison said, grabbing his jacket. But it's all we've got. I'm coming with you, Maya said. Maya, that's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. If she's my aunt, if she's as scared as my mother was, maybe seeing me will help. Maybe she needs to know that what Caroline did worked, that I'm okay, that leaving Lucia might have been the right choice. Detective Morrison looked at Patricia, who shrugged. She has a point. And technically, Maya's not part of the official investigation. She's just a concerned citizen. The apartment building was exactly as run down as Maya expected. Graffiti covered the walls and half the mailboxes were broken open. They climbed 3 flights of stairs to apartment 3F. Detective Morrison knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Police, we need to talk to Diane Martinez. Nothing. Maya's heart sank. They were too late. She wasn't here. But then they heard it. A small sound from inside. A baby crying. Detective Morrison's hand went to his radio. He knocked again. Ma'am, we know you're in there. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to help. The door opened a crack held by a chain lock. A woman's face appeared in the gap. She was thin, with dark circles under her eyes and dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted and terrified. Her eyes scanned Detective Morrison, then Patricia, then landed on Maya, and Maya saw it. The recognition. The shock. Caroline? The woman whispered, her voice breaking. No, Maya said gently. I'm Maya. I think Caroline was my mother. I think that makes you my aunt. The woman's face crumpled. She started crying, her whole body shaking. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. He was coming back. He found me. I couldn't let him hurt her. I couldn't. We know, Maya said. We know about Victor. Please let us help you. Let us keep you and your baby safe. For a long moment, Diane just stood there crying. Then slowly, she undid the chain and opened the door. Inside the apartment, everything clicked into place. And Maya realized this was just the beginning of understanding what her mother had sacrificed, and what her aunt was still sacrificing, to keep their children safe. The apartment was small and sparse with hardly any furniture, a mattress on the floor, a few plastic bags of clothes, and a playpen in the corner where baby Lucia lay, looking up at the ceiling with wide eyes. The windows were covered with sheets, and Maya realized Diane had been living in near darkness, hiding. Diane sank onto the mattress, her hands shaking. She couldn't stop staring at Maya. You look just like her, she whispered. Just like Caroline. I thought I was seeing a ghost. Maya sat down carefully on the floor near her, not wanting to crowd her. Detective Morrison and Patricia stood by the door, giving them space but staying alert. The baby started fussing, and Diane immediately reached for her, holding her close like someone might try to take her away. It's okay, Maya said softly. No one's going to take Lucia. We're here to help. You named her Lucia? Diane asked, her voice thick with tears. Social services did, temporarily. Until we could find you. Her real name is Olivia, Diane said, kissing the baby's forehead. After our mother. But she never got to use it. I only had her for 3 weeks before I had to let her go. Patricia pulled out a notebook. Diane, I know this is hard, but we need to understand what happened. Why did you leave Olivia in the park? Diane closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were hollow. Because of Victor. He found me. Tell us about Victor, Detective Morrison said gently. The story that came out was worse than Maya had imagined. Victor Reyes had been their mother's boyfriend when Caroline was 14 and Diane was 10. He'd been charming at first, helpful, but it didn't take long for him to show his true nature. He was controlling, violent, and when their mother tried to leave him, he threatened to hurt her daughters. Mom was weak, Diane said, and there was no judgment in her voice, just sadness. She was sick a lot, couldn't work much. Victor paid the bills, so she felt trapped. He mostly ignored me and Caroline at first. But when Caroline turned 16, he started looking at her differently. Maya felt sick. Caroline tried to fight him off, but he was stronger. Mom caught him one night, tried to stop him. He put her in the hospital. That's when we ran. We went to that shelter your grandmother talked about, and Caroline was pregnant, Patricia said quietly. Diane nodded. She found out at the shelter. She was devastated. She wanted to get an abortion, but she didn't have any money, and by the time the shelter helped her set up an appointment, she was too far along. She kept saying she couldn't bring a baby into this world. Not like this. Not with Victor's blood. But she had the baby anyway, Maya said, touching her own chest, feeling the weight of that knowledge. She did. And when you were born, something changed. She looked at you and you were perfect. You didn't look like him. You looked like us, like our family before Victor. Caroline held you for 2 days. She named you Maya, after our grandmother who died when we were little. She made that blanket for you. She poured everything into it, all the love she couldn't give you herself. Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. She'd spent her whole life wondering if her mother had loved her, if she'd mattered. Now she knew. So why did she leave me? Maya asked, her voice breaking. Because Victor found us, Diane said. The shelter had a strict privacy policy, but somehow he tracked us down. He showed up 2 days after you were born, demanding to see Caroline. The staff called the police, but Caroline knew he'd just keep coming back. She knew he'd claim you were his, that he'd use you to control her forever. Diane wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. That night, Caroline asked Grandma Rosa if there was somewhere safe, somewhere someone would find a baby quickly. Rosa told her about her walking path, about how she went through the park every evening. Caroline waited until everyone was asleep and she took you there. She left you where she knew Rosa would find you. Rosa knew, Maya whispered. She knew it was going to happen. Rosa tried to talk her out of it, Diane said. But Caroline was determined. She said it was the only way to keep you safe, to give you a real chance at life. She made Rosa promise to take care of you, to make sure you grew up knowing you were loved. What happened to Caroline? Maya asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Diane's face crumpled. Victor found her anyway 3 years later. I was in foster care by then. Our mother had died, and I was too young to take care of myself. Caroline was trying to build a new life, but he tracked her down. There was a fight. She fell down a flight of stairs. The room was silent except for the baby's soft breathing. The police said it was an accident. Diane continued, her voice hollow. Victor said she was drunk, that she just fell. But I know he pushed her. I know he killed her. But I couldn't prove it, and I was just a kid. No one listened to me. Detective Morrison's jaw was tight. Did Victor go to prison? Not for Caroline. But he got arrested for beating up another girlfriend 2 years later. That's when he got 12 years. I thought I was finally free. I changed my name, moved around, tried to stay off the grid. I met someone, got pregnant. I thought maybe I could have a normal life. But Victor got out, Patricia said. Diane nodded. 6 months ago. I didn't know at first. But then I started seeing signs that someone was following me. Strange cars parked outside my building. Hang-up calls. I was 8 months pregnant and I was terrified. My boyfriend left when things got scary. He said I brought too much drama. She laughed bitterly. Maybe he was right. So you had Olivia and then what? Maya asked. I tried to hide to stay safe. But 2 weeks ago I saw him, Victor. He was outside my building watching. He didn't see me, but I knew he was getting close. I knew it was only a matter of time before he found my apartment, before he tried to take Olivia or use her against me. Diane's grip on the baby tightened. I remembered what Caroline did, how she saved you by letting you go. I thought maybe I could do the same thing. I took Olivia to the park, to the same place Caroline took you. I wrapped her in a blanket I'd made just like Caroline did. And I prayed that someone good would find her just like Rosa found you. I found her, Maya said, and I'm here now. You don't have to do this alone. But Victor's still out there, Diane said desperately. He's still looking for me. Even if you arrest him, he'll get out eventually. He always does. And he'll never stop hunting us. Detective Morrison stepped forward. Diane, I need you to tell me everything you know about Victor's recent activities. Where he's living, who he associates with, any threats he's made. If we can build a solid case, we can put him away for a long time. Violation of parole, stalking, threatening behavior, and I'm going to personally make sure we do this right. Why? Diane asked, looking up at him with exhausted eyes. Why do you care? Because 17 years ago I worked the case when Maya was found. I always wondered what happened to the mother, if she was okay, if she was safe. When I found out she wasn't, that she died because we didn't protect her, it's haunted me. I'm not going to let that happen again. Over the next hour, Diane told them everything. Victor's parole officer's name, the address where he'd been staying, the pattern of his stalking. She showed them photos she'd secretly taken of his car parked outside her building. She had more evidence than she realized. Patricia called Child Protective Services and explained the situation. They agreed to keep Olivia in foster care temporarily, while they worked on a safety plan for Diane. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than Diane trying to care for a baby while hiding from a dangerous man. Can I see her? Diane asked, her voice small. Olivia, I mean. Can I visit her in foster care? Yes, Patricia said firmly. We'll set up supervised visits. And we're going to get you into a domestic violence shelter tonight. Somewhere Victor can't find you. Somewhere safe while we work on the legal case. Maya stood up. Can I talk to Diane alone for a minute? Detective Morrison and Patricia exchanged glances, then nodded and stepped outside into the hallway. Maya sat next to Diane on the mattress. I know you don't know me. I know this is all crazy and overwhelming, but I need you to know something. Diane looked at her. This young woman who was her sister's daughter, her niece. Caroline saved me, Maya said. By leaving me in that park, she gave me a life. I got to grow up with Abuela Rosa, who loved me more than anything. I got to go to school, make friends, be safe. I got to be happy. And that's because of the choice Caroline made. But she died alone, Diane whispered. She died and you never got to know her. I know her through you, Maya said. Through the blanket she made me. Through the choice she made to put my safety before everything else. That's love, Diane. The deepest kind of love. And by leaving Olivia in that park, you showed her the same love. You're not a bad mother. You're a mother who would do anything to protect her child. Diane broke down then, really broke down, sobbing into Maya's shoulder. Maya held her. This aunt she'd just met. This woman who carried the same trauma, the same impossible burden as her mother had. We're going to get through this, Maya said. You, me, Olivia, Abuela Rosa, we're family. And we're going to make sure Victor never hurts anyone again. When Detective Morrison and Patricia came back in, they had a plan. A safe house for Diane, a strategy for building a case against Victor, and a commitment to seeing this through. As they prepared to leave, Diane grabbed Maya's hand. Thank you. For finding her. For finding me. Thank you for trusting me, Maya said. And for trusting that the world might be kind enough to catch her when she fell. That night, as Maya lay in bed, she thought about her mother, Caroline, who'd been just a few years older than Maya was now when she made the hardest choice of her life. Caroline, who'd made a blanket with blue and yellow flowers and poured all her love into each stitch. Caroline, who'd died alone but had saved her daughter by letting her go. Maya pulled out her phone and looked at the photo of her blanket again. Tomorrow they'd start building the case against Victor. Tomorrow they'd start the process of making Diane and Olivia safe. Tomorrow they'd begin healing. But tonight Maya just whispered into the darkness. Thank you, Mom, I understand now. And I promise I'll take care of them. I'll make sure your sacrifice meant something. And somehow in the quiet of her room, Maya felt like maybe Caroline heard her. The safe house was on the other side of the city, a nondescript building that looked like any other residential home. Maya visited Diane there 3 times a week, while Detective Morrison built his case against Victor. It wasn't easy. Diane had good days and bad days. Days when she could talk about the future and days when she couldn't stop crying over everything she'd lost. Do you think she'll forgive me? Diane asked one afternoon. They were sitting in the small kitchen, drinking coffee while rain pattered against the windows. Olivia, I mean, when she's older and understands what I did. Maya thought about her own feelings, the complicated mix of understanding and grief she felt for Caroline. I think she'll understand you saved her life. That's what I understand about my mom now. But you grew up not knowing her. Doesn't that make you angry? Sometimes, Maya admitted. But mostly I'm just sad. Sad that she had to make that choice. Sad that the world wasn't safe enough for her to keep me. But I'm not angry at her. I'm angry at Victor. At the system that didn't protect her. At everyone who saw what was happening and looked away. Diane nodded slowly. Caroline used to say that anger was just love with nowhere to go. Maya liked that. It felt true. Detective Morrison's case was coming together piece by piece. Victor had violated his parole multiple times, associating with known criminals and leaving the county without permission. They had witnesses who'd seen him outside Diane's old apartment building. They had phone records showing dozens of hang-up calls to her number, and when they searched his apartment, they found photos of Diane he'd clearly taken without her knowledge. But the strongest evidence came from an unexpected source. Victor's current girlfriend came forward after seeing the investigation on the news. She had photos of her own injuries, text messages with threats, and a recording of Victor bragging about how he'd handled Caroline years ago. It wasn't a confession, but it was close enough to reopen Caroline's case. "We're going to get him," Detective Morrison told Maya and Diane at a meeting 2 months after they'd found each other. The prosecutor is confident. Between the parole violations, stalking charges, and new evidence in Caroline's case, Victor's going away for a long time. Diane started crying. Maya held her hand. "What about Olivia?" Diane asked. "Can I get her back?" Patricia, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. "That's complicated. You'll need to prove you can provide a stable home. The court will want to see that you're in therapy, that you have employment, that you have a safe place to live. It's not going to happen overnight." "How long?" Diane's voice was desperate. "Honestly, probably 6 months to a year. Maybe longer." Diane looked crushed. Maya knew that feeling. The weight of time stretching out endlessly. A year was forever when you were missing someone you loved. What if she didn't do it alone? Maya said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "What if Diane moved in with me and Abuela Rosa? We have a 2-bedroom apartment. It's small, but we could make it work."
"And what if I applied to be a foster parent for Olivia?"
"Temporarily, until Diane can get custody back. That way Diane could be with her daughter every day, helping take care of her while also rebuilding her life." Patricia frowned. "Maya, you're 18. You're working 2 jobs. You're caring for your grandmother who has dementia. The court is going to question whether you can handle a baby on top of all that." "Then I'll show them I can," Maya said firmly. "I'll cut back to 1 job. I'll take parenting classes. Whatever they need. This is my family. My aunt, my cousin. I'm not going to let them be separated if there's any way I can help." Rosa, who'd been mostly quiet during all of this, surprised everyone by speaking up. "Maya is stronger than you think. She's been taking care of me for 2 years. She's been working since she was 15. If she says she can do this, I believe her." Detective Morrison smiled. "You know what? I believe her too." The process was exactly as complicated as Patricia had warned. There were background checks, home visits, interviews, and endless paperwork. Maya had to get certified as a foster parent, which meant 20 hours of training classes. She had to quit her job at the grocery store, which meant money was tighter than ever. But Rosa's pension and Maya's wages from the diner were just enough to cover rent and food if they were careful. Diane enrolled in therapy and started taking classes at the community college, working toward a degree in early childhood education. She wanted to work with kids someday to help families like hers. On good days, she was hopeful. On bad days, Maya found her crying in the bathroom, overwhelmed by guilt and grief. "I keep thinking about all the time I'm missing with her," Diane said one night. "She's changing every day and I'm not there." "But you will be," Maya reminded her. "That's what we're working toward." 4 months after they found Diane, the court approved Maya's foster application. The day they brought Olivia home was chaotic and beautiful. Rosa had decorated the small 2nd bedroom with streamers and balloons. Diane had bought every baby item she could afford, and Maya, who'd never taken care of a baby before, felt suddenly terrified. "What if I mess this up?" she whispered to Patricia as they did the final walkthrough. "You'll figure it out," Patricia said. "That's what parenting is, figuring it out as you go." Those first few weeks were the hardest of Maya's life. Olivia cried constantly, adjusting to yet another new environment. Maya was exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep and more coffee than she could count. But Diane was there, helping with late-night feedings and diaper changes. Rosa, in her lucid moments, rocked the baby and sang old Spanish lullabies. And slowly, somehow, they became a family. Victor's trial happened 6 months later. Maya and Diane both testified. It was terrifying seeing him across the courtroom, this man who'd haunted their family for so long. He stared at them with cold eyes, but he didn't look powerful anymore. He just looked old and mean. The jury found him guilty on multiple counts. The judge sentenced him to 25 years. He'd be 70 years old before he was eligible for parole. When the verdict was read, Diane collapsed into Maya's arms, sobbing. "It's over. It's finally over." "It's over," Maya agreed, crying too. With Victor in prison, the path to reunification became clearer. Diane continued therapy and finished her first year of college with good grades. She got a part-time job at a daycare, building both experience and references. And every night she came home to the small apartment she shared with Maya, Rosa, and Olivia, reading bedtime stories and singing the baby to sleep. Maya watched her aunt transform. The scared, broken woman she'd met in that dark apartment was still there sometimes in moments of doubt or fear, but increasingly Maya saw someone stronger, someone who was learning to believe she deserved good things, that she was more than her trauma. On Olivia's first birthday, they had a small party in the apartment. Patricia came and Detective Morrison and Helen from the Shelter Textile program. They sang happy birthday and Olivia smashed her face into a small cake, and everyone laughed. Later, after the guests had left and Olivia was asleep, Maya found Diane sitting alone in the kitchen, holding the blanket with pink and purple flowers. "I keep thinking about Caroline," Diane said, wishing she could be here, wishing she could see how it all turned out. Maya sat next to her. "I think she knows. Somehow I think she knows. Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if she'd kept you? If she'd run away with you, tried to hide?" "Sometimes," Maya admitted. "But then I think about Abuela Rosa, about the life I got to have. And I think Caroline knew. She knew that running meant always looking over your shoulder, always being afraid. She wanted more for me than that. Just like I wanted more for Olivia," Diane said quietly. "Exactly like that." 2 months later, the court approved Diane's petition for reunification. After 10 months of supervised visits and temporary foster care, Olivia was officially returned to her mother's custody. It was bittersweet for Maya, who'd grown to love the baby like her own daughter. But it was right. This was what they'd been working toward all along. Diane and Olivia stayed in the apartment with Maya and Rosa. They'd become a household, a weird unconventional family that worked because they all needed each other. Diane helped take care of Rosa when her dementia got worse. Maya helped with Olivia when Diane had classes. And Rosa, in her good moments, told stories about the family's history that neither Maya nor Diane had known. On Maya's 19th birthday, Diane gave her a gift wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a blanket, cream-colored with embroidered flowers. Blue and yellow in one corner, pink and purple in another. "I've been taking classes," Diane explained, "learning embroidery from online tutorials. Helen helped me get the pattern right. It's not perfect, but I wanted you to have something that connected all of us. Caroline, me, you, Olivia." Maya traced the flowers with her fingers, tears running down her face. "It's perfect." That night, after everyone was asleep, Maya pulled out the old photo Helen had given her, the only picture she had of Caroline. She couldn't see her mother's face clearly in the image, but she could see her hands working on that blanket, pouring love into every stitch.